This is August 2021, and we are still in COVID virus around the world, in the Western world, still very much in. It is still plaguing us. I have a set of lectures regarding genetics. It's from the teaching company, the Great Courses teaching company, and I have this particular one, and it is concerning genetics. The professor of these 24 lectures is David Sadava, PhD, and they are extremely interesting, and they are extremely well done for the novice like me regarding genetics. He has one lecture that is specifically regarding the immune system of our human body, and we are wonderfully made, as the Holy Scriptures say. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. In one of his lectures regarding the immune system, he says, regarding smallpox, and I'm quoting what he quotes from here, he gives a quote, finding smallpox could be spreading much, and no precaution could prevent it running through our whole army. I determined that our army is to be inoculated. We should fear it, smallpox, than the sword of our enemy. End of quote. David Sadava goes on to say, this was written by the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Continental Army to his chief physician, dated January the 6th, 1777. The commander was George Washington. He knew well the threat of smallpox. History had showed Washington the deadly smallpox virus. A famous minister by the name of Cotton Mather, 1663 to 1728, he saw his 3 children nearly die of smallpox. Then a slave of his from Africa, a slave called Onesimus, told him that in his country a person would be protected if a small piece of dried pus of the smallpox was put on a cut of an individual. In 1721, some sailors inadvertently brought smallpox to Boston. An epidemic began. Mather convinced a physician called Boylston to try inoculating some normal, undiseased people in the way that his slave had described. Boylston did so, first on 2 slaves of his own and then his son. It worked, and they didn't get smallpox. So then he did it on many others. The result? This epidemic in Boston was greatly stopped. 1777, Washington's army, it worked pretty well also. And the USA went on to win, of course, the war and gain independence. Smallpox claimed about 300 million lives in the 20th century. In 1967 alone, 15 million cases and 2 million deaths. In 1979, inoculation worldwide started in the 1960s, eradicated smallpox. The immune system is involved in the story of Washington. And now David, the professor, talks about the immune system. Got some charts here for you. When a virus attacks us, we have something that is called a white cell. There's the name, if you can read it there. It engulfs the invading army, as you can see, and it chops up the virus. It chops it up. It engulfs the virus, it chops it up, and then presents it on its surface, like that. The protein fragments are put out on the surface. Another white blood cell, there it is, another white blood cell, right there, it's called the T cell. And as you see, it has little arms out here, and it comes around and it catches hold of one of these protein pieces of the virus that's come out now on the surface here, and says, I got it. Oh, I got it. Oh, boom, I've got it. Right there. I've got it. And then a series of events start. Another T cell, the killer T cell, it destroys the lot of the invaders. And it's called secular immune system. The secular immune system. And there it is. Hopefully everybody can read that. Carrying on, another white blood cell called the B cells. They make antibodies. And here's the little arms with the little catching things. They bind up any virus outside of a cell, say in the blood. So they bind up with the little arms here any of this invading virus that happens to be in the bloodstream. The B cells make a whole army. So they multiply and make a whole army to fight and bind up the invading virus pieces. And especially if they're in the blood cell, that's what the B cells do, if the virus is in the blood system. This is a two-point attack. Cellular response and humoral response. Well, in simpler language, it's a cell attack of the enemy in the cells, and it's a blood attack if the enemy is in the bloodstream. So number 4, page number 4 here, the two armies eventually die off, but a small contingent is left, remains, especially against smallpox. So it's for the smallpox. They are ready to battle if a new infection comes along. It's a standing army. T and B cells. It's a standing army. A little bit is left now in case this smallpox hits us again, and the army then can go to work. The T and the B cell army can multiply and go to work again. And these are memory cells. The little bit that's left there is left in reserve as a memory cell for smallpox. Indeed. So the little piece of smallpox dried pus on the cut look enough like the real thing, enough like the real smallpox, to have the immune system send in the two armies, the T and B cells. An imaginary war takes place. but left with a memory cells, some memory cells, ready to fight a real war if live smallpox comes along. So, modern vaccines, my friends, if you have taken the time to go on the internet and look to see how they are made, to see what's in them, and especially to see what they are doing to fight COVID, you will see modern vaccines work with and use the methods that our immune system uses. COVID vaccines, my friends, do not work against our immune system. They work with it. They work with it. It's important to know that. It isn't something going into you from these vaccines that are messing up your DNA or might mess up your DNA. No, they are working with genetics. The modern vaccines, especially for COVID, are working with scientific genetics that is so now well known in the last 20 years. The genetics, the genes of our body and our immune system and the T cells and the B cells and how it all works. And these modern vaccines for COVID are working with our immune system, not against our immune system. And most people will do well indeed if they do. Well indeed if they get vaccinated. I believe it indeed should be. It is being proved that the modern vaccines working with our immune system are indeed succeeding against the COVID virus.